Today is Monday, September 18th. This is the Monday Morning Post Week 2 NFL recap. I'm Ryan Sampson, the producer of the show, joined by my guy, Dexter Henry. Dexter, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Week 2 of football. Week 1 was a liar. We saw some other things in week 2. We'll see how things go from here on. Maybe we know a little bit more, Ryan. Maybe just a little more about the NFL in this.
Yeah,
week.
I think week 1 always provides overreaction from a lot of the
Yes.
things that you see. And then week 2, like you said, provides a little bit more information, whether you were overreacting on one thing or maybe you were right about something you saw in week 1. Before we get started and talk about our top story, I want to say that we're going to have John Jastremski join us as our special guest today. JJ, you could catch him on the New York podcast, which is on The Ringer and Spotify. JJ's fantastic. He's going to talk to us about all of his top takeaways from week 2 action, and we're looking forward to speaking with him. But Dex, I want to start with my top story, the Sunday Night Football game. The Dolphins, 2-0, beat up on the Patriots, 24-17 win. They look fast. They have explosive playmakers all over the field, and they were able to hold on. I mean, the Patriots put a little bit of run at the end, but I got to say, man, the Dolphins look legit. What'd you take away from last night's game?
My takeaway from last night's game is the Dolphins can win any kind of game. That's the biggest thing that I like about them right now. They look fast. They look legit, like you said. You're worried about Tyreek Hill. Okay, you know Belichick is going to scheme to try to take him out the game, but still, they have so many other weapons. You've got Jalen Waddle doing a great job. You saw Tyreek Hill get a touchdown in the red zone, so you're always worried about him with space, but they were able to get him a nice touchdown on a sort of pick play in the red zone and to get it there. I just love what they can do. They're running the ball efficiently. They were tremendous in the pass game. Also, the defense looks pretty good, right? You got to think about that. Yes, the Pats came back. They had some plays. Mac Jones was able to produce some drives, but I think they look really good, and they look like they could win any kind of game. I picked them to win the AFC East, so I'm not a little bit surprised. JJ, when he gets on with us later, you know he'll be pumped up because he's a Dolphins fan. But, yeah, man, I think they look really good. I think they could be one of the best teams in the AFC when it's all said and done. And like I said, it's just about when you can win in a variety of ways and you're getting that kind of play. Offensive line is giving 2 a time, which matters for him with his injury history. And then their defense was playing good. Were able to get some pressure on the quarterback last night. I'm very impressed with Miami thus far through 2 games. I know it's only 2 games, guys, but I'm very impressed with them.
Andrew Van Ginkel, the kid was all over the field, the long blonde dreadlock. I mean, he looked great, and he was getting after Mac Jones all night. That kid came out of nowhere, started off as a special teamer and worked his way onto the defense, and he's making an impact. He's a legit pass rusher. He's throwing some spin moves. He had some nice dip to his game. I mean, he was getting after Mac Jones. But to your point, Dexter, about the Dolphins offense, they were able to do it via the ground game. Even though Tua was able to go for 249 yards, a touchdown and a pick, they held Tyreek Hill to 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown, obviously. Waddle 86 yards. But Raheem Mostert, the 31-year-old back, 121 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. The Dolphins can come at you in multiple ways, and I think that's a good point you bring up there. But I want to flip this to the other side of the Patriots, who are now 0-2. The offense, they look better, obviously, under Bill O'Brien compared to last year with Matt Patricia, which was a disaster in itself. But you look at the offense that they have right now, there's no playmakers. They don't have explosive playmakers. Tyreek Hill, a Jalen Waddle, a guy that can go downfield and stretch the field for you and gives you those explosive plays. It's a very methodical offense, if we're being honest. You have 2 running backs, one in Zeke Elliott, which, you know, he's a bruiser. You got Ramondre, he's got some catching ability, but at the end of the day, you don't have those explosive playmakers because Devontae Parker, Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, Kendrick Bourne, those are your leading receivers. None of those guys are going to beat you one-on-one. They're just not. So until the Patriots are able to find that explosive playmaker, that number 1 receiving threat, I don't think they're going to be able to take that next step as an offense and to be able to compete ultimately in this AFC East, because you saw the difference when it came to the Dolphins and their weapons and the Patriots and their weapons. And I think that ultimately might have been the difference here tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, right? Like the Pats, they looked fine at times, right? Like they looked fine. You saw some of those second half drives. They get that touchdown on Hunter Henry, who's a nice tight end, does some great stuff for them in the red zone. But outside of Bourne might be their best receiver, right? Like he might be their best receiver, but is he a playmaker, like you said? No. Is he striking fear into the hearts of anyone? No. Here's the thing. Pats fans are going to say, hey, well, we've won in the past before without a big number 1 guy. But you know what? You had Tom Brady. That made the difference, right? Tom Brady elevated the play of everybody else. And this is no shade to Mac Jones, but he's not that kind of guy, at least from what we've seen thus far. and I don't think he's elevating. So with that being said, to your point, Ryan, you need playmakers. You need guys that can break it open. They don't even have a guy like that. Imagine if the Pats had, let's say, someone like Garrett Wilson on the team, right? Somebody can catch a ball and turn something that's an 8-10 yard catch and go 40, 50 yards. They don't have that kind of guy. And I think that hurts that offense. And they're solid defensively, but offensively, they're just mediocre at best. And that's me probably being nice there.
Yeah. And the Patriots obviously coming up week 3, they're going in MetLife Stadium. I like calling it Jet Life because Aaron Rodgers called it that. But RIP in peace. I mean, that was still hurting me a little bit, obviously, from week 1.
I know.
Speaking of all Jets and Giants post-game recap, if you want to check out all of that recap here in the New York Post Sports YouTube channel, check out our Blue Rush and Gangs All Here Jets and Giants podcast. They got a lot of great analysis. They talk to our Jets and Giants beat writers about all those games that were there watching. So if you want to get more recap on the New York teams, please go check out those podcasts. Dex, I want to talk about our next top game, and our top story that I want to talk about was the Bengals. They're 0-2 after losing to the Ravens. 0-2, not only in record, but also in your division. You lost to the Browns and the Ravens in your division back-to-back weeks. It's been a slow start, to say the least, for this Bengals offense. Joe Burrow, obviously a little bit better, 27 of 41, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But to be honest with you, Dex, they were never really in this game. I mean, they had the nice punt return that kind of got them back into the game. But then after that, the Ravens, they were able to move the ball better. They were able to get those score to always stay ahead by 7 or 10 points. And the Bengals were always chasing this game. What was your biggest takeaway from this, man?
So my biggest takeaway, when you look at the game, right, Burrow started off slow again. He really didn't get it going till the middle of the second quarter. So I was starting to be like, okay, what's going on here? You might have some concern. Here's the thing, and I'm trying to put this in totality. I think there should be some concern about the Bengals, right? But if I'm being realistic here, they played 2 divisional games. They played 2 good defenses in division. And for them, all the defenses in the division are good. They haven't played Pittsburgh yet, which is also another good defense. So I'm wondering that, combined with the fact that Joe Burrow didn't have that much of a training camp, and he's going to need some time to get up to speed. I think Burrow and the Bengals figure this out. We saw them 0-2 last year, and they still obviously made the playoffs. I think they can figure it out. But the problem with starting 0-2, as you know, Ryan, it can get late real early. And that might be happening for the Bengals. So they're in a must-win spot this week. I think they got to do that. I think Burrow plays better as we get closer to October than he did in September. But right now, the offense isn't looking good. You saw some good things. He did connect with T. Higgins twice. Yep. That was really nice. But like you said, they were playing catch-up. They got it to 3 a couple of times. But as soon as that happened, the Ravens were right back and they scored and they took care of business. So the Ravens, they've looked good through 2 games. The Bengals, better in week 2 than they did in week 1. I think they're trending the right way, and they should take care of some lesser defenses when they face them. So I would say, a scale of 1 to 10, my worry or concern for the Bengals, probably at like a 5 or 6. I'm not overly worried. I think they'll right this ship and get it corrected. But it can get late early. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's a good point. Getting late early is definitely a good way to put this with the Bengals. I mean, they have the Rams on Monday Night Football, and the Rams don't look like an easy team to beat. They're that team that seems like they're going to put up a fight till the end, and you got to be able to you got to be able to hold on and get that win, because if you start at 0-3, I don't know how you win this division, because we talked about the AFC North and how tough this division is. So for me, like you said, Joe Burrow didn't get an entire training camp. This feels like week 2 of the preseason for him. He's still trying to figure out this offense, but they got to get Jamar Chase going. They got to get T. Higgins. I know he had 2 touchdown catches, but you got to get more explosive plays out of these guys. I think that's the biggest thing I want to take away from when you watch other offenses. There's explosiveness all over the field. It felt like Jamar Chase was being locked down. It felt like, T. Higgins was locked down for the most part. It's got to be more than methodical. It's got to be you got to get those 20, 30-yard plays, because that's what really can break the back of a defense. Last thing before we go to JJ here, I want to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are 0-2 to start the season as well. They obviously lost in a shootout to the Dolphins at home in week 1. It was a great game. It was back and forth. It could have gone either way. This week, they lost in overtime to the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee, 27-24. They had to fight back just to get an even chance to go to overtime because they had a last-second field goal. The Titans went up late with a little bit over 2 minutes to go, and then the Chargers drove down the field, or less than 2 minutes ago, and the Chargers drove down the field, tie the game up, and go to overtime. Keenan Allen looked explosive. The passing game looked good. They couldn't run the ball, though, against the Titans. But their defense, yet again.
That's the point there, Ryan. That's it.
Gave up 24 points to the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans are the most explosive offense either. They got Derrick Henry. They got DeAndre Hopkins. For me, though, you're paying over $100 million for 3 players when you talk about Derwin James, Joey Bosa, and Khalil Mack. Now, Khalil Mack had a couple pressures in a sack. Joey Bosa had a couple sacks. But at the end of the day, your defense couldn't get the stops that they needed. And for me, I am starting to panic about this Chargers team. And I got to question, Dex, are they wasting the prime years of Justin Herbert under this coach and Brandon Staley, who's so highly touted? And if you follow along what I've always said about Brandon Staley, I think he's overrated. I don't understand why he got that job, because he was the Rams defensive coordinator and he had Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey who helped lead him get a job. And in my personal opinion, he's not doing the same thing right now with two great pass rushers and a great safety. I think it's time to panic about the Chargers. And again, you're talking about another tough division in the AFC West.
I'm with you. For you hit the nail on the head. If you're concerned about the Chargers, and I am more concerned about the Chargers than I am the Bengals, guys. More concerned about that. Why? Because of everything Ryan just said. Defense, defense, defense. They've got playmakers on defense, but they ain't making plays right now. Giving up 27 points to the Titans is an indictment on your defense, okay? The Titans are not lighting the world. This is not the 99 Rams. They're not lighting the world on fire. They're not doing anything of that, right? Of that nature. They give up big plays. That's the other thing. Giving up big plays. Now, the offense has been fine, but the difference in this game, to me, offensively for the Chargers, 2 for 14 on third down. That's not going to get it done, while the Titans were 6 for 13. So that was a huge difference in this game and why they lost. You also lost 2 close games, something you don't like to see. Some of that is on your defense. Some of that is on your offense not being able to execute in the third downs. I'm very concerned about this. Also, you got to throw on top of this, Ryan's got his criticisms of Brandon Staley. We know what happened last year in the playoffs against the Jaguars. That didn't end well.
Comeback ever.
Right. This man has been on the hot seat, and now you get off to an 0-2 start. The seat is even hotter for this. You want to talk about getting late early. It might be late already for the Chargers. It might be, and I think you have to have a lot of concern with them just because of how the defense looks. Miami's going to put up points. They did on them. You could say, okay, whatever. Miami's going to
536 yards they gave up to the Dolphins.
A lot of yards, right?
And then 340 to the Titans this week. You're talking about almost 1,000 yards of defense you're giving up in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. And the thing is, you could say, all right, maybe week 1 was a liar, as I said. Maybe you could say that in week 1. But week 2 might have told us some truth about the Chargers, because you give up all this to the Titans. 27 to the Titans, guys. So I have concerns about the Chargers. And another point that I think you made is fantastic, Ryan, is in the NFL, you want to maximize the prime years of your young quarterbacks. When you have an elite top 5, top 6 quarterback, which Justin Herbert is, you want to maximize those years. And when the defense is playing like this, you're absolutely not doing that. So if the Chargers don't get this turned around, if they don't figure things out by week 3, the seat's going to get hotter for Brandon Staley. It's definitely going to, because the defense right now looks like absolute trash.
And just real quick about the Chargers and how much they're spending on this defense. They gave J.C. Jackson a 5-year, $85 million contract this offseason, mind you. Khalil Mack, when they traded for him, they gave him a 6-year, $141 million contract. That's what they traded for him for. Then you got Joey Bosa, who's one of the highest paid defensive players in the NFL. He signed a contract. Sorry, I'm just pulling this up right now. 5 years, $135 million. They are spending over $400 million on 4 players, if you included Derwin James on that. 1,000 yards of offense you're almost giving up in 2 weeks. What are we doing here? And Brandon Staley, you're a defensive-minded head coach. You're a defensive coordinator first. So there's some real questions here, man.
It's real questions, and he has players. It's not like he doesn't have players. They're not performing right now, and you wonder what that comes down to. Inexcusable, like you said, almost 1,000 yards, inexcusable through 2 games. No doubt about that.
All right, next up, JJ is going to break down all the rest of the Week 2 NFL action, including some of the games we already talked about. We're joined by John Jastremski. You can hear him on the New York podcast on both The Ringer and Spotify, and we're a pleasure to join by JJ. JJ, how you doing, man?
Guys, I'm doing great. My football team is 2-0. The New England Patriots are 0-2. Went 5-0 in the circuit contest in Week 2. So all smiles, even on this rainy day in New York City. Good to be with you guys.
Look,
we appreciate you joining us, man.
I like when JJ's happy, man. I like when JJ's happy. When the Dolphins are good, JJ's good. So I like that.
Good, I
was going to say, I'm usually in a good mood to begin with, but I'm in an especially good mood when I got my Dolphins playing well. That's accurate, boys.
I hear you.
Well, starting with the Dolphins, I want to talk about this Sunday Night Football game, JJ. And my question to you is obviously, like you said, they're 2-0. They look fast. Me and Dex talked about it before. They have playmakers all over the field. And Week 1, they did it through the air. But then Week 2, Raheem Mostert, 31-year-old back, who's still got the speed. He gets it done with 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think that's what's impressive about this Dolphins offense. They can get after you, not just through the air, but also on the ground game. What was your takeaways from last night's game?
That's a great point, Ryan. Look, you got to be able to find ways to win in different varieties. If you're going to be a top flight team, you're not going to win every game like it's the old AFL where the score is 45-42. So, when you're playing the New England Patriots, even though New England is a shell of what they used to be under Bill Belichick, they're always going to take away what you do best. So they basically had 2 guys shadowing Tyreek Hill the entire game. You weren't getting those deep shots like Miami was getting a week ago against the LA Chargers. So give Tua credit. He kind of took what was given. Give Mike McDaniel credit because he did not get away from the running game. And the Miami Dolphins had an answer for when the New England Patriots responded. Now, that game got a little hairy at the end, a little too close for comfort. But that is a game, fellas, that 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the Dolphins lose that game in New England. So it does show you that there's a different feel and a different vibe around them. And look, the Miami Dolphins are loaded. I'm not just saying it because I root for the team. They're loaded on offense, the speed that they bring to the table. Their defense was so much better in Week 2 than what it was in Week 1. And you're going to see that with Vic Fangio. It's the NFL, though, and we're talking about health. So that's going to be the million-dollar question with Miami moving forward throughout this year. Can they keep Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle got beat up, might miss next week. They got to keep those guys on the field for extended chunks. If they do, they're as dangerous as anybody in the AFC.
Are you saying that, JJ, is dangerous to anybody in the AFC? And I love what you said there because I'm with you on this. The thing I loved about last night's game is they showed they could win in a variety of ways, right? This isn't just going to be a track meet every week. That's a good thing. You said they're dangerous. I want you to put something on that. How dangerous do you think you be? Are you saying you think this team can go to the Super Bowl? Can they represent the AFC here? How dangerous do you think the Dolphins could be?
I know it's a cop-out answer, Dex, but it's all about health, man.
That's true.
Listen,
That's true.
It's all about health. And this goes for a lot of different teams, right? The Philadelphia Eagles last year, and I know this isn't the answer you guys are looking for, but that's okay. That's what I do around here. The Eagles last year were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
That makes a difference when you get into the month of January and it's this just like war of attrition when it comes to injuries galore across the league. So, yes, do I think Miami can be a Super Bowl representative? I do. I don't think that's outrageous. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I don't think I'm saying anything that's going to shock a whole lot of people. But are you telling me I'm getting 17 weeks or close to it from Tua, and is he there for the playoffs? Is Tyreek Hill there for the playoffs? Is Jalen Waddle and the guys on that defensive line there for the playoffs? So, I would put them in that category. Dex, I don't like putting anybody in the Super Bowl in Week 2 because it's just way too early.
Right, it's Week 2.
But listen, if I'm looking at a handful of teams in the AFC that could be representing the AFC in Vegas in February, are the Dolphins in that mix? 1,000% yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, JJ. It's all about the health. It's all about staying healthy through those 17 weeks and getting the production that you're going to get from your big guys. Your defense, and real quick, we were talking about Andrew Van Ginkel. Can you talk about this guy, this story? Last night, he was all over the field making plays for you guys on defense.
He's a very underrated player. He's been on the team the last couple of years. he kind of profiles guys as a player that you'd expect to see on the New England Patriots. In all seriousness, where he can play defensive end, he can play linebacker, he can play in coverage, he can get after the quarterback. And
special teams, he does it all.
He got an expanded role in this game because their stud Jalen Phillips didn't play. They didn't have him out there for this game against the New England Patriots. Therefore, there were more snaps for Van Ginkel. I can guarantee you this. Vic Fangio is going to be finding more plays and more snaps for him after he was all over the freaking field against the New England Patriots. That, you can make the argument outside of Raheem Mostert, he was the MVP of the game for the Miami Dolphins. He was awesome.
100%. And that's what has impressed me. And like you said, Vic Fangio, you forget that they brought him in this offseason and he's going to have his hands on that defense. It was impressive to see that kid make some plays. JJ, the next game I want to talk about is the Bengals versus the Ravens. The Bengals are 0-2 now to start the season. And the big thing I told Dex is that not only are they 0-2, they're 0-2 in their division after losing to the Browns and Ravens. This is not an easy division as it is in the AFC North. What was your takeaway? Are you worried about the Bengals starting 0-2 and Joe Burrow?
Shameless, fellas. I was all over Baltimore in this game. Baltimore was a revenge spot from the postseason. Baltimore, let's be honest, should have beat Cincinnati in the postseason last year if it wasn't for that fumble at the 1-yard line. And that was with Hundley at quarterback, not Lamar Jackson. I thought the Ravens would be ready to go. I'm not sounding the alarm on Cincinnati yet, guys, and I'm going to tell you why. They started 0-2 last year. Let's not forget, they lost, if you remember, to the Steelers and Trubisky in week 1. They lost to Cooper Rush and the Cowboys in week 2, and they've started 5-4 each of the last 2 years, and they have figured it out. I expect Cincinnati between now and the end of the year to figure it out. I think Joe Burrow is clearly rusty from missing all of that time. Forget about the preseason games. The fact that Joe Burrow cannot get the same work in with Jamar Chase and with T. Higgins and Boyd and all these guys, there's going to be a ripple effect with that. That's all there is to it. Now, do I think Cincinnati is as good as they've been the last 2 years? I'm not sure about that, because they've had some departures and some defections on that defense. And that's really where I'd be sounding the alarm watching them in week 2. I thought the defense was putrid in this game. And I know Staten Island's Lou Anarumo probably pulling his hair out after watching the game film of Lamar Jackson toast him basically on every single third down. I don't know if Cincinnati's going to win this division. So if that's where your concern is, I think it's legitimate. Cincinnati, with that quarterback and with that pedigree over the last 2 years, they will figure it out. And I'll say comfortably at 0-2, they still find a way to make the playoffs.
See, I'm with you on that. I think they figured it out. I said the same thing to Ryan before. I think they get this done. I'm with you on this too, JJ. The concerns got to be more about the defense. They got close a couple of times, got the game within 3. What does Baltimore do? Right back down the field, put them away. They are not able to stop anybody. If they can't play to the level of the other defenses in their division, right? And Pittsburgh even is going to have a good defense. I think they can still be competitive because the offense will figure it out. But do you think they can still sneak in as a wild card team? Or are you that concerned that they might have trouble even making the playoffs?
I still think Cincinnati will get there, but there's a lot of competition. You know, it's interesting, guys. We thought the AFC, and it's still going to be a really, really good conference, but it definitely feels a little weakened after watching the first couple of weeks of action. The Jets are clearly not going to be the same team because they don't have Aaron Rodgers. That's a major monkey wrench. That's a major game changer. The Chargers, all sorts of problems. Is Jacksonville maybe a little bit overrated? So, you know, I think it's a very good AFC. I still think it's better than the NFC for what it's worth. But you got to wonder if it's a little bit more maybe wide open than what we thought a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think JJ, I should say, Dex made a great point earlier about it can get late early, but at the same time, you don't want to overreact to an 0-2 start. There's another team that's 0-2 that I want to talk about in the AFC, the Chargers. They lose in overtime to the Titans. Obviously, they get destroyed by the Dolphins week 1, and now week 2, you go to Tennessee. You still couldn't get those key stops on third down. And the biggest thing I take away, JJ, is that this Chargers defense that has spent so much money on Bosa, Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, they can't stop the Titans offense that has, let's be honest, not the most explosive playmakers. Derrick Henry's a bruising back. DeAndre Hopkins is a good possession receiver, but they legitimately could not stop them when the big times and the big moments happen. So are you concerned about the Chargers? Are they wasting Justin Herbert's prime years right now with him?
Yes. A couple of things with the Chargers. You're absolutely right about the defense. It's charm and soft. It's so overrated. The Chargers as a team are so overrated. But before we just roast Brandon Staley and before we just roast the defense, can we acknowledge this, though? They had a chance, and I bet the Titans, full disclosure. I had money on the Titans yesterday, so I'm watching this game very intently. I'm just throwing this out there. The end of this game, go score a touchdown.
Yes.
You're settling for a field goal, and this is where Golden Boy Justin Herbert's got to take a little heat here. I understand he's incredibly gifted. He's incredibly talented. His teams are mediocre year after year after year. The game against Miami, he had an inexcusable intentional grounding. They only needed a field goal to win the game. Brain fart can't happen, right? In winning time, in clutch time. This week, they are inside the 10-yard line. Mike Vrabel, who I love as a coach, I think he's screwing up the timeouts. I'm like, Mike, what are you doing here? Call your timeouts just so you have some time in the event they go and score. He can't make the big third down play. They get the ball, might I add, in overtime first. So it's not like the Titans got the ball and went right down the field and scored a touchdown. The Chargers could have scored. They did nothing on the opening series. To me, Herbert, as talented as he is, and he is super talented, I think he's got to take a little hit here. You know, a lot of people look at the Chargers, and listen, I hate the coach. I think he stinks. I think to your point, Ryan, the defense is very overrated and not any good. But like everyone's like, oh, well, Justin Herbert this, Justin Herbert that. Maybe make a couple of winning plays in winning situations, and we're not having these narratives and conversations. The Chargers, you know what they're going to be, guys. They're going to be right around 500. Maybe they get in the playoffs. Maybe they don't. But you know how this is going to end, right? Like, we all know how this is going to end for the Chargers. They're going to be in every game. They're going to be great for your fantasy teams. They are winning diddly squat this season. Case closed.
JJ, are you more concerned about the Chargers at 0-2 than the Bengals at 0-2?
Oh, not even close. Yes. Chargers by a mile. Yeah. By a mile. Because, Dex, we saw Cincinnati at 0-2 last year. We saw it. Remember, they were 0-2. They took on the Jets. All of a sudden, that got their season going, and they kind of took off, and the rest is history. Yes, 1,000% more concerned about the LA Chargers.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on the Chargers. With you, I'm so with you on that. That defense, terrible.
Even with Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator this year, still, that's a great point, JJ. They still came up short, and they still weren't as aggressive as you thought they could be with Justin Herbert at quarterback. JJ, final thoughts. Anything else from Sunday that really stood out to you that you want to get off your chest right now? I just want to open up the floor to you right now.
Yeah, how good is Micah Parsons, guys? I mean, can you imagine if you got a game plan for that guy? I mean, frightening. He is all over the field, and this doesn't get talked about nearly enough. How about taking Kadarius Toney over Micah Parsons, and you got to deal with freaking Micah Parsons destroying your quarterback and every other quarterback for the next decade plus? The other one that I had, and it's kind of random, the Chicago Bears stink, man. I mean, what is going on? I heard all offseason they're going to make progress. Their offense is going to look better. DJ Moore. They look awful, guys. Awful. And that 4 o'clock slate, if you want to do yourself a favor and do some, that's a good pumpkin picking 4 o'clock slate. You know, if you got little ones, get out of the house. Those 4 o'clock games this week are terrible, but those are my final thoughts.
Couldn't agree more. Micah Parsons looks like the defensive MVP already. He could be an NFL MVP candidate, for being honest. He gets pressure up the middle, even as a pass rusher, linebacker. He makes plays all over the field. That guy's unblockable, if we're being honest with you right now. And I got to agree with you. The 4 p.m. slate, absolute garbage last night. And as a Jets fan,
look, next week. I'm talking next week.
Next week.
Do yourself a favor, guys. When you finish up with me, look at those 4 o'clock games and hide the women and children. They're bad.
Well, I'll be working, and so I'll have to force myself to stay awake.
I was gonna say that's the idea.
Can't fall asleep at work.
Yeah. Well, lay big point spreads. Either or.
Either or. I'll do that. Can't have JJ coming up to SNY seeing me fall asleep. Can't have that happen. That'll not be good.
No, absolutely not. Got to keep you perky, baby.
That's John Jastremski. Can't thank him enough. JJ, like I said, you can hear him on the New York podcast and both the Ringer and Spotify. You also hear him you can see him on SNY. Great stuff as always, JJ. Appreciate you, man.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
Thanks, JJ.
That was JJ. Like I said, you can hear him on the New York podcast on both the Ringer and Spotify. Got to thank him, obviously, for giving all of his biggest takeaways. Dex, I want to hit on one more game from Sunday from week 2 that we haven't hit on yet. The Chiefs versus Jaguars. The Chiefs needed a bounce back win after losing the season opener against the Lions on Thursday night. But they came back. They got Kelsey back. They shut down this Jaguars offense. And the Jaguars were so highly touted in the offseason as everyone's darling. Like, look out, the Jaguars are coming. The Jaguars are coming. But this Chiefs defense, they held them to 9 points. Trevor Lawrence did not look good, if I'm being honest with you. They held Travis Etienne in check. Calvin Ridley did not have that many explosive plays. I was impressed. I honestly was. They needed a win, and they got the win. What did you take away from that game?
Takeaway from that game is the Chiefs' offense is still a work in progress, right? And that was to be expected. Getting Kelsey back, you're going to get some better performances from the receivers. Kadarius Toney, he at least was better than he was in week 1. I'd said in my player props, I would have took him over 27.5 yards. He got that because he couldn't be any worse with all the drops he had in week 1. So the offense is going to get better. And listen, you're going to trust that offense to get better because they have the best quarterback on the planet in Patrick Mahomes. They're going to get better. What you didn't expect is what you just said. The Chiefs' defense looks really good. And if they're playing this level of defense and they're playing that good and you think the offense will get it going, well, they're right back to being what we think they could be, which is someone who can contend for the Super Bowl, a team that can contend for the Super Bowl and win it all again. They're always going to have a shot with Patrick Mahomes, but we haven't seen a Chiefs in this run for Patrick Mahomes. Going back to 2018, we haven't seen a Chiefs defense look this strong. Now, it'll be nice to see what they do against other teams that maybe are a little bit offensively explosive. Although the Jaguars were hyped by everybody, as you said, to be putting up some numbers on the board this year, and we haven't exactly seen that. So you got to give that win is all about the Chiefs defense. Patrick Mahomes said as much after the game. He said this win was about the defense. I know Mahomes had 2 touchdowns here, 1 to Kelsey, but this was about the Chiefs defense. And I think that's the thing to look at them going forward is can their defense continue to look this good? And if they can, they'll be able to win games because you know the offense is going to get better.
Yeah, obviously 11 different receivers Mahomes threw pass. He completed a pass to, which is 2 weeks in a row he's done that, mind you. So they are still trying to figure out an offense. It is an offense by committee if we're talking about receiver threats. But the Jaguars, I really want to focus on them here a little bit. You held to 3 field goals, no touchdowns. Multiple times they got in the red zone and they could not score a touchdown. Doug Peterson, I expected better from. And I think the Jaguars circled this on their calendar even before their week 1 matchup because they almost got trap gamed by the Colts in week 1. Like they squeaked out that win, if we're being honest. This game, I think they had circled. They said, we got to beat the Chiefs because they remember the playoff game last year. You know, they had to have Chad Henne come in and finish that game. I mean, for me, the Jaguars, I was a little unimpressed with what their performance was yesterday. And I expect a lot more out of them and this offense to be a lot better. I really do. All right, Dex, Monday Night Football. This is going to close out our show.
Yes.
We got 2 games tonight. 2 games. We got Saints Panthers and Browns Steelers. Out of the 2 games, what are you most looking forward to watch?
I'm most looking forward to what happens in this Browns Steelers game because it's an AFC North rivalry matchup, although the Steelers have long time beat down the Browns. But the Browns defense looked fantastic in week 1. They're expected to be a really good defensive team. Excuse me, the Steelers also expected to be the same. This to me is very interesting. Steelers are at home in this one. Classic spot you like for Mike Tomlin here. How does this team bounce back against the Browns? And if you're for the Browns, how good are you to go into Pittsburgh and see if you can build off of week 1? So it's a very intriguing spot for both teams. Obviously, one will be true and the other won't be true. We'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how both teams come out to this game. I'd be stunned if the Steelers don't come out with a lot of energy, but I think the Browns also are going to understand the importance for this game in the way the Steelers have dominated them recently, and they want to show that they are for real in this division. So how both teams come out is going to be very interesting to me on Monday night. Yeah, and I'm going to look forward to the other game, obviously, the Saints-Panthers. What is Bryce Young? He's got to follow up. Obviously, last week they lost. They're in the division now. They got to be able to beat the Saints at home if you want to make a statement. And also, I want to see how he looks. And then Derek Carr obviously got a huge contract this offseason, signing with the Saints. They were able to get through that week 1 victory against the Titans. What's that connection with him and Olave? Like I think that's actually a sneaky good game. I mean, if Bryce Young could keep it close, the Saints defense is legit, but Derek Carr should be able to prevail, and I'm
excited to see how this offense develops and continues to take another step with both him and Olave. But Dex, that's our.
What's crazy, Ryan. I was gonna say, if the Saints win, there'll be 3 2-0 teams in the NFC South, which I don't think anybody would have predicted.
We didn't talk about the Falcons, but that was quite the comeback win yesterday.
It was quite the comeback win. We'll have to talk about them down the road.
Yeah. Yes, we will. I have some questions about their head coach, but besides the point, Dex, that's our week 2 recap, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, man. Week 3 is going to be fun. We should know a little bit more in week 3. Week 1 is a liar. Week 2 told us some things. We'll know more in week 3.
We appreciate you as always watching the Monday Morning Post with us. We're going to be doing a recap like we said every week. You can catch us on the New York Post Sports YouTube page. Obviously, give this video a like. Subscribe to our channel for all of our NFL content. Like I said, if you want to watch some more Jets and Giants content, we got the Gangs All Here and Blue Rush Jets and Giants podcast. That'll be posted here on the New York Post Sports page. And like always, we appreciate you all paying, giving us a view and watching us. Thank you.
Peace.